The wind rolled across the open plains like a whisper from another world as the cowboy, Ethan Ward, slumped over his saddle, barely hanging on, blood trickling down his arm after a violent ambush by cattle thieves he had chased farther than any sane man should have. His horse, Dustfall, carried him stubbornly until the outline of a small homestead rose in the orange dusk, like a prayer answered. Ethan could no longer tell what was real and what his fever imagined, but he remembered knocking on the door before collapsing into darkness. The next thing he felt was cool water touching his burning skin, and when he forced his eyes open, he saw her, Mayra, the widow's daughter, her hands steady, her expression gentle yet fierce, as though she had decided that his life would not end on her watch. She had grown up on these plains, learning her late father's herbal medicine and her mother's quiet strength, but she had never treated a wound this deep, never seen a man this close to death. Still, something about the stranger's stubborn heartbeat made her refuse to let him go, and so she worked tirelessly through the night, heating water, grinding herbs, stitching torn flesh with trembling but determined fingers. Ethan drifted in and out, catching glimpses of her braided hair glowing in lantern light, her eyes narrowed in concentration, her soft voice whispering, "Stay, just stay a little longer." When morning came, her mother, Mara, a widow who carried loss like a shadow but kindness like a torch, found her daughter slumped asleep beside the patched-up cowboy. "You saved him," Mara said softly, and Myra, rubbing sleep from her eyes, felt a strange flutter inside, a sense that this stranger's arrival wasn't just fate, but a turning point. Over the next few days, Ethan regained strength, waking to Myra's warm presence, to soup she made with care, to the way she checked his bandages with disciplined gentleness that made him feel more human than he had in years. He learned her laugh, soft but sincere. He learned her eyes always looked past words, searching hearts instead. And she learned Ethan wasn't just a cowboy. He was a man carrying grief of his own, guilt for not saving a brother he'd lost long ago, and a loneliness so deep that it echoed in every quiet moment. The more he healed, the more he found reasons not to leave, helping Mara gather firewood, teaching Myra how to ride Dustfall properly, laughing for the first time in years when she nearly toppled off but landed straight with stubborn pride. Yet in the quiet evenings, when Myra sat by his bedside making sure his fever didn't return, Ethan found himself watching her as if memorizing the shape of hope. She didn't know she was touching a soul long starved of affection. She didn't know he had silently vowed that if he survived, he'd repay her kindness in ways no coin could cover: loyalty, protection, devotion. But she also didn't know danger was crouching near, because the same thieves who had left Ethan bleeding were hunting him still, and the homestead where kindness lived had unknowingly become the next place their shadows would fall. And as Ethan grew stronger and secretly prepared for the possibility of defending the family that had healed him, he realized something terrifying. He wasn't just staying because she saved his life. He was staying because she had unknowingly captured his heart. And for the viewers listening to this tale, if stories of courage, fate, healing, and unexpected love ignite your imagination, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you never miss the next chapter where hearts are tested, danger strikes, and love proves its worth. By the time Ethan's strength returned fully, an unspoken bond had woven itself between him and Myra, quiet glances turning into lingering moments, shared chores turning into gentle laughter, and every sunset inviting a gravity neither of them dared to name aloud for fear it would shatter if spoken too soon. Yet the plains do not grant peace without testing who deserves it. And the warning came the morning Ethan saw distant hoofprints circling the homestead. His blood chilled. He recognized the pattern of a scouting rider, the kind thieves sent before taking what they wanted. He told Mara and Myra with a steady voice but a racing heart. And though fear flickered across Myra's eyes, she stood firm, gripping the old rifle her father left behind the hours that followed, felt like the sky itself was holding its breath, the wind quiet as if listening. When the thieves finally rode in, 4 grim men with cruel smirks and hands too comfortable near their holsters, Ethan stepped forward not as a guest but as a protector. They mocked him at first, calling him the broken cowboy patched up by farm girls, but when Ethan didn't flinch, when his jaw hardened and his hand hovered near his gun, with the certainty of a man ready to die for those behind him, their smiles faltered. The standoff cracked open fast, gunshots splitting the stillness, dust exploding under boots, Myra firing from the porch with more courage than she knew she possessed. Ethan moved like a storm breaking loose, each motion fueled not just by survival, but by a fierce devotion to the woman who had mended him. When the chaos settled, the thieves lay defeated or fleeing, the air thick with gunpowder, and Myra ran to Ethan with tears of relief, her hands trembling as she checked him for wounds. "You could have died," she whispered, voice breaking. But Ethan cupped her face gently, telling her he had something worth fighting for now. Someone. Mara, watching from a distance with knowing eyes, felt her heart warm in a way it hadn't in years, as though life had restored a piece of her that grief had stolen. Over the next days, normalcy slowly returned, but something had changed between Ethan and Myra. The air carried an unspoken promise. One evening, under the soft glow of twilight, Ethan finally told her the truth, that he owed her more than his life, that her kindness had healed wounds deeper than bullets, and that if she allowed it, he wanted to stay, to build something real with her, something lasting. Myra's voice trembled as she admitted she had been afraid of the day he'd ride away, afraid she'd lose the man she saved but somehow ended up needing. Ethan took her hands and vowed she'd never have to wonder again, though he couldn't promise a life without storms. The plains were too wild for that. He promised a life where she would never face them alone. And in that moment, love didn't arrive with fireworks or grand speeches. It arrived quietly, like dawn, steady and warm, exactly the way two wounded hearts learn to beat again. Mara blessed their union with a tearful smile, whispering that her daughter had not only healed a man, but found one who would cherish her fiercely. And so Ethan stayed, not as a patient, not as a drifter, but as a partner who repaid kindness with devotion, danger with protection, and healing with a love strong enough to rebuild a future. And to all watching this story unfold, if you want more tales of courage, destiny, and love born from the harsh and beautiful Wild West, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Your support helps bring these powerful stories to life, and many more unforgettable journeys await.